We got more NBA draft talk for you. Carter Bryant going to the San Antonio Spurs. How do we feel about the fit? As well as Caleb Love. Could he be selected tonight? Don't go anywhere. 30 seconds, the AZ Wildcats podcast. Welcome on in, guys, to the AZ Wildcats podcast. I am your host, Damon Fairall, coming to you live from beautiful, lovely downtown Phoenix at PHNX HQ2 on a Thursday. And I got my guy, Saul Bookman, making a lot of appearances recently on the AZ Wildcats podcast. Right next to me right here, maybe de facto co-host here with Kevin and the amount of vacations he's been taking recently. But we are happy to have you here, Saul, especially on a day. I know how much you love basketball in the NBA. It feels like that this is kind of a match made in heaven for you to be able to talk NBA draft with us here on a Thursday.
Great timing. Great timing. Couldn't be better. I'm excited about today and the prospects of Caleb Love, but also, getting into a little bit of Carter Bryant. And I do have a question for you right off the top.
Let's do it.
What NBA team has had the most Arizona Wildcats on its roster all time?
I mean, the fact that, Carter Bryant went to the Spurs is making me think that that's potentially an answer here, but I feel like that's almost too obvious. But that's a really interesting question. Who has had the most Wildcats? This is like any time that they played for the franchise throughout their career.
Yes.
Man.
That's tough. And the answer shocked me. I didn't know.
Let me think. Shoot, I wish I had a little bit easier. I mean, I want to just say Spurs. Leah makes a good little guess here with Golden State Warriors, a lot of U of A influence, but I feel like part of that is Steve Kerr, right? Where we view him so much as a U of A guy because he's always repping U of A, but he's not actually playing for the team. Yeah. Maybe the Bulls. I'm going to go with the Bulls.
It's actually the Phoenix Suns.
Wow.
Yeah. Yeah, they've had 7 all time, and I did not know that. Did not think about that at all. I did a little research, and I found that out, and I was like, wow, I would have never guessed the Suns because it feels like they've only had a couple, and most notably, that I can remember, obviously DeAndre Ayton, but before that, Steve Kerr got drafted by the Suns. Few and far between, but 7 all time.
Yeah, that is surprising. I mean, who else are we even talking about here? There wasn't any 7 seconds or less era guys that were Arizona Wildcats, were there?
No. I don't know. I gotta look that part up. I didn't look that part up. I just saw that it was 7, and then the Pacers and Nuggets were right behind them.
Yeah, Pacers doing a lot of heavy lifting right now with a couple Wildcats on their team, but and I guess the Nuggets too. They got Zeke Naji and Aaron Gordon on the team right now as well. But Saul, I think this is a great place to start off. I mean, it's not. We'll get into Carter Bryant here and his fit with San Antonio here in a second, but just tell me about how you feeling about your Phoenix Suns. You like what they did yesterday in the draft?
I do. I know there's a lot of people that are upset because, apparently 2 bigs is too many, even though all season long all you heard was there was no rim protection. So, again, I just pump the brakes, people. Pump the brakes. Everybody just lives on the edge of the cliff at all times, and it's not healthy. And I like what they did. And listen, I saw Kaman Malawach in person. Love what he brought to the table. I love his demeanor. I love his story. I love the fact that he's only played basketball for about 6 years and picked up a basketball at the age of 13. And 5 years later, he ends up playing in an exhibition game against Team USA and Anthony Davis and LeBron and Steph and all those guys, and shows that he belonged on that court. And as a matter of fact, as he left the court, Devin Booker said, "I'll see you next year." he thought, but he meant like in the NBA. He had no idea that he was going to become a teammate of his, which is pretty remarkable. So I'm excited about what they did.
We watched Malawach, obviously, when he played Duke, or when Arizona played Duke twice last season. And, I take away a little bit more from that second game just because I felt like that was when Arizona was truly reaching its stride. But one thing that jumps off the pages at you is just the level of athleticism that this guy has, his ability to catch lobs, his ability to rim protect. Like that sort of stuff should translate right away at the next level. And it seems like the Suns kind of got their picture perfect, selection at number 10, if you will, just given the needs that the team had, and an injection of size and athleticism that the Suns were really, really desperately in need of. But another team that, I wouldn't say that they were desperately in need of youth and athleticism, but it's definitely the mold in which that they are pushing towards right now is the San Antonio Spurs. And, they have Victor Wembanyama, obviously, he's the big ticket, and he figures to be the guy that is going to take the Spurs from a team that's been somewhat dormant recently to a championship contender. But they add Arizona's Carter Bryant in the process with the last pick of the lottery. So Saul, I guess just kind of what were your thoughts on that selection? Do you like Carter Bryant's fit in San Antonio?
I mean, I don't think there was a team that he could have been better suited for other than San Antonio. Like that was a perfect fit. I mean, San Antonio is going to be dangerous, even without the 2 draft picks. But they also got Dylan Harper, number 2 overall. They're cooking right now. Victor Wembanyama, De'Aaron Fox, and then you add Dylan Harper, who's going to play probably a little bit off ball, but also a little bit of point, especially if De'Aaron Fox gets hurt. Like, he has the propensity to do. Jeremy Sochan. I mean, like the list goes on. Devin Vassell. Like they have an athletic young squad ready to go. So I'm excited for Carter because I think with this team, he's going to be able to ease into becoming the prolific player that we know he will be at some point. My hesitation with Carter was for any team that drafted him, you got to pick and choose when you want to use him because, we saw early on at U of A how he kind of struggled defensively, and it took him a little bit to kind of learn, the system, the rotations and all that stuff. And then once that happened about midway through the year, he started to cook with some gas. So I think the same thing is going to happen in the NBA because it's just a little bit of a quicker game. Now it's a little bit easier because the fundamentals in the NBA are a little bit cleaner because most of the time you're playing man-to-man defense. Occasionally you'll throw the zone out there, but I think that Carter's going to be able to really thrive as a 3-and-D player right off the bat. His athleticism obviously is going to match up what San Antonio's trying to do. They got a lot of youth on that team, a lot of length, and they're well positioned to have a decade of dominance if they go about this the right way, which is really, really unfortunate if you're a Suns fan.
Yeah, I was actually going to ask about one thing that you mentioned right there at the beginning of that answer, which is, do you think that Carter Bryant is more well suited for easing into the NBA and kind of doing what Tommy Lloyd did with him at Arizona, which is play him off the bench, give him more minutes as he earns it, and kind of let him, get his feet wet at the next level at a different speed, right? Or do you think that it would have been more beneficial to a Carter Bryant to go to, say, maybe like a Portland Trailblazers where he probably would start from day one and would get a ton of run on a albeit bad team, but he would get the experience of taking the L's and trying to just improve upon his game. But I guess which situation did you think was better for Carter going into the draft?
No, I think San Antonio was the best possible spot. Like as an organization, San Antonio is not really a laughing stock. They have a lot of credibility. They have a lot of respect because of the championships they've won. Pop is still around, even though he's not coaching. He's still in the front office trying to help and advise. We'll see how long that lasts, but his influence on that organization is undeniable. So, you have Mitch Johnson as the head coach now taking over. You have Brett Brown is an assistant coach. He used to coach for the Philadelphia 76ers, got a lot of, cash in this game. So I just think that in terms of a landing spot, not only as from an organizational perspective, but also on the court, it couldn't have been any better. You go to Portland. Portland's been they've been all over the place. They don't really even know what their identity is. They don't know what they're trying to build. It's kind of really loosey-goosey. Chauncey Billups and company are just kind of, they haven't built an identity yet. And so I thought this is perfect for them.
Yeah, it seems like Carter Bryant's going to be playing a lot of relevant minutes when it comes to the San Antonio Spurs in the future. I'm not necessarily saying in this upcoming 2025-26 season that the Spurs are going to be some championship contender, but long term, I think that that's what they project to be, right? And that's what makes Carter Bryant kind of a nice fit there is, we've seen Carter Bryant be a winning basketball player at Arizona, albeit in, very limited roles, but I felt that he always was impacting the game, or I guess not always, but primarily impacting the game at a positive level, and was making big impact plays in the process, emphatic dunks, loud blocks into the stands. Like that's the kind of thing that I think is momentum driven and that can really boost your team. But also is just it goes to show the flashes of Carter Bryant and what level he can reach at a certain point. I think as a Suns fan, Saul, does it hurt you a little bit to see him in San Antonio? I guess that was kind of where I was going to go next. Like I know a lot of Arizona fans are Suns fans. There's definitely a mismatch there of people because the Suns have generally been a very relevant NBA franchise, and this is somewhat of a hoop state. Like our two best teams have pretty much always been the Suns and Arizona basketball. Was it painful to see him go to San Antonio?
No, no. I mean, it's painful when you think about the potential impact of it down the road. Yeah. But for Carter, no. Super happy for him to be able to land with the Spurs. Listen, as much as I love the Suns right now, I feel like they're still trying to shake things out and figure out where they need to approach this and how they need to attack everything. So by that, there's a little bit of disorganization to a certain degree because they haven't been able, they got a little ahead of their skis. And when they got so ahead of their skis and things didn't work out, everything just kind of fell apart. And that's kind of part of the learning curve, right? Mark Cuban did it when he was in Dallas. He took over the Dallas franchise. He tried to make these drastic moves and it didn't work out. And it took the better part of about 2 decades before they finally won a championship under Mark Cuban, right? You fast forward over to Steve Ballmer and the Clippers. They're kind of in the middle of it too. Like they've made some moves. They tried to shore up some things. They've thrown a lot of money at the wall. Some of it stuck. Some of it didn't. They've had their big threes, and it just hasn't worked out. But you can start to see the identity under Ty Lue kind of come about, and they're a little bit more of a staunch defensive team. They're more consistent than they were, maybe 5 years ago. And so they're getting back on track. And I think that's part of the learning curve for an owner as well. And now Matt Ishbia, same thing. He threw a lot of stuff at the wall. He threw a lot of money at the wall, and it didn't work. And it didn't work. It was kind of a disaster, but it wasn't any more of a disaster than any of the previous two that I just mentioned. So like this whole thought that the Suns are a complete mess is just kind of ridiculous. They're going to figure it out. These are well-established people in their own industries, and they're taking over a new industry trying to figure it out, and they will. I have no doubt about that. But right now, in terms of Carter Bryant fitting into that organization, I thought that it's probably not the best situation to be in if you're a young guy trying to figure everything out on yourself in accordance with the organization as well. And San Antonio being a little bit more established, I thought it's probably the better move for him.
Yeah, has the opportunity to grow a little bit more, I think, in San Antonio, whereas I think that there is just a kind of an existential pressure in Phoenix just because of how loud all of the moves have been. And you still have Devin Booker on the team. And I feel like as long as Devin Booker's on the team, teams are going to look at your team and say that should be a team that's in the playoffs. So, there's pressure that comes from that. But now, that pressure is a little bit alleviated. He probably isn't even a starter from day one. But projects as a more long-term starter down the road. Kevin and I were talking about his strengths and weaknesses yesterday, Saul, and we kind of put this together. A lot of his strengths kind of coincide within one another. Like he's that prototypical 3-and-D wing. He has the NBA frame and athleticism that you're looking for in a small forward at the NBA level. Has underrated playmaking capabilities, especially if you watch a lot of his highlights. Like his best passes look really, really good. His best passes are passes that show that he has playmaking chops that a lot of players at his size and position probably do not have. defensive versatility, can defend that 3-4-2, maybe even a little bit of some slower point guards, as we were talking about yesterday. And he definitely brings a little bit of shot blocking to the table as well. But some of the weaknesses, things he needs to work on: low usage rate, fouls a lot, doesn't really create his own shot, and doesn't put the ball on the floor all that often. So, Saul, when you're looking at this, what kind of jumps out to you as things that you think Carter Bryant needs to work on, and things Carter Bryant will maybe step into the NBA and be good at immediately?
Yeah, no, listen, I think defensively, he played in the physical conference in the Big 12, and I thought he handled it well after a little bit. And when you get to the NBA, man, it's a little more volatile, because some games you're going to be physical, some games they're going to be ticky-tacky because the refs are kind of all over the place. And you can't find that consistency within the league to find your footing, right? Because you're playing different teams every 3 days. It's a different team. Eastern Conference, Western Conference, doesn't matter. So I still think defensively, he needs to figure out and develop that defensive awareness, not only just in terms of where he's at on the court, but also in his positioning and how he's bodying up and being physical with players on the other team. Offensively, I agree. The ball handling didn't really display that very much. Didn't show that he can create his own shot. Didn't really show that he had dynamic playmaking abilities or a second or third or fourth go-to move when this first one gets stopped. Those are the things that I wish we would have seen a little bit more. And that's one of the reasons why I wanted him to come back, so that way he could display those skills heading into this year. But now he's going to have to try and do that in the NBA. So I agree with your assessment on those fronts.
Before we move on and talk a little bit more Caleb Love, I did want to brush over mine and Kevin's draft props we did yesterday. We picked some of our favorite props to display and put some money on, and spoiler alert, Saul, we didn't do too hot. This is what my guy Kevin put down. He had Trey Johnson going 7th pick. I believe Trey Johnson went, was he 7th?
Oh, I thought he was.
No, he was 6th. Trey Johnson was the 6th pick. Noah Senge ended up going to the Chicago Bulls, much past 10. And Carter Bryant obviously was not number 11. He went number 14 to the Spurs. And then on my picks, I had Malawak going before the Suns even got the opportunity to pick at 8 to the Brooklyn Nets. Carter Bryant to the Trailblazers, similarly to Kevin. And I had Jace Richardson under 24.5. Actually, I think that hit, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I had forgotten about that. Jace Richardson went to the Magic. Oh, wait.
At 24. No.
He was 25.
He was 25, yeah.
Oh, brutal.
Damn.
Little live on air, miss on the betting side of things there. But yeah, 0 for 6 from your boys. I will say lots of plus money bets in there, like lots of plus 500s and stuff. Hard to be mad at those misses, but 0 for 6 feels bad. Like we needed one hit in there.
Yeah, that wasn't too hot. That wasn't too hot.
It certainly wasn't.
I'm really curious to see if Caleb Love does get drafted and where he goes. I wish there was a prop for that.
Yeah, that would be fun. Like if there was like a, just a simple will he be drafted type of prop would be pretty interesting. But we're going to get into Caleb Love, maybe talk about some of his best fits, worst fits, and look at some guys that potentially are similarly in the same, I guess, mold of Caleb Love and how they could potentially be drafted, if that spells good news or bad news. But we'll talk about that here and more on the AZ Wildcats podcast right after the break. But first, I want to talk about Empire Today. You guys hear me talk about Empire Today and wax poetically about the number one place to get your new flooring all the time, because Empire Today isn't just some big box store. This isn't, you're not working with some guy who just got the job at this store 2 weeks ago and, he's just looking for a way to make ends meet. Empire Today, they are people that absolutely live, breathe, sleep, maybe even eat flooring. They love it so much. Empire Today, we got some Empire Today beautiful, pristine flooring, hardwood right in front of me that I'm looking at in our Studio A. It is still in tip-top shape with no marks or, things that show signs of wear. That's what's great about Empire Today. It is an absolutely quality product for the best quality price. And with our promo code of PHNX, you're going to get $350 off your brand new flooring. So whether it's tile, carpet, some hardwood, you name it, Empire Today has it all. and their virtual floor designer is going to show you exactly what it looks like in that new room, or in that room with that new flooring, before you make such a massive purchase, before you do something that you regret. That's why Empire Today is the absolute best. So schedule a free in-home estimate today, because some things are just better at home. PHNX listeners can receive $350 discount when using code PHNX. Restrictions apply. Visit EmpireToday/PHNX for full details. Another big sponsor of ours that we love talking about all the time is Branded Bills. We got a brand new promo code for you guys. It is BBPHNX, and it is going to get you 15% off that Branded Bills hat. You see me wearing Branded Bills hats all the time on this show. I love repping them because they rep our great state. My guy Saul Bookman, when I pop him back on screen, you're going to see it. He has a beautiful Branded Bills golfer rope hat on. One of the great designs that they have in the state outline. I mean, it's just beautiful. This is our state. No better way to represent it than buying an Arizona Wildcats state outline Branded Bills hat. They got all kinds of hats going on. They got the campus collection that is very special, limited edition to only the Tucson bookstore on campus there. So make sure you guys go check that out if you're in town. And yeah, Branded Bills is just the absolute premium place to get headwear, whether it's snapbacks, tees, beanies, fitteds, even t-shirts. They got you covered. Branded Bills, the best place to do custom apparel, the best place to support local, and the best place to buy Arizona Wildcats gear. So I'll show off that Branded Bills hat for the people at home. Just a beautiful hat.
Gorgeous.
I know they got the Phoenix Suns collection too going on, which I know you got some of that gear as well that they're selling down at the PHNX Arena. I think we should just start doing that, right? Just calling it the PHNX Arena instead of the PHX Arena.
1,000,000%.
Yeah, but another guy that we're going to talk about here in a second is Caleb Love. Caleb Love, Arizona Wildcat legend. Would you call him a legend? I don't know. The bar's pretty high at Arizona to be considered a legend, but he's definitely was a fan favorite in his time at Arizona. And, a guy that I think most of this fan base wants to see, get that accolade in his life of being an NBA draft pick. AZ Soldier up here asks, is Love in the draft? He is indeed in the draft. Worked out for some teams in the lead up to it. Not projected to be a draft pick, but type of guy that absolutely could be drafted. Last year around this time, Arizona had Pelle Larsson be a second-round pick. I'm not sure everybody was expecting Pelle Larsson to necessarily get drafted. And then beyond that,
he was projected middle second round.
Yeah, I definitely saw some stuff where he wasn't in mock drafts as well. But Kashad Johnson was in some mock drafts as well and ended up going undrafted, but found a spot and got a two-way contract with the same team as Pelle Larsson in the Miami Heat. So even if Caleb Love does not get drafted, it is not all doom and gloom. He absolutely, could earn an opportunity with the team through Summer League and get a two-way contract. Saul, is there any particular team, that you're looking into the second round here and looking at the teams that are in a spot that could pick a Caleb Love? Any teams in particular that stood out to you that you like as a fit for Caleb Love?
Caleb is he's a dynamic player, and I think he helped himself, especially in the second part of this year, in terms of really showing not only, how consistent of a shot he could be, but also his playmaking. And I thought his playmaking is what kind of elevated him back into the draft conversation, especially in the second round, because at his size, he needs to be able to run a little bit of point from time to time. So will he be able to do that? Well, we'll see. And I think a place like the Bulls, who are kind of, they kind of have this kind of youth movement going on, but they desperately need some help off the bench. I think that could be a position or a place that he could land. You look at somebody like the Lakers, again, some help off the bench. They need some youth on that team because they're only getting older and LeBron's not getting any younger. So you look at that. You look at a team like the Knicks. The Knicks would be, to me, listen, if there were a place for Caleb Love to go and be like that dude, because maybe he's just a clutch dude, it would be the Knicks. I think that would be a great landing spot for him. He could come off the bench. He can hit some buckets. He's not afraid of the crowd. He's not afraid of the moment. We've seen him plenty of times in an Arizona uniform not be afraid down the stretch or at the end of games to pull the trigger. I think that's a team that could surprise. And I would say lastly, in terms of development and trying to make sure that you stash away players on a two-way deal or putting them in the G League and hoping that they can rise above and they can find their way to your organization. The Spurs, again, they're kind of in the middle of this youth movement, a la OKC, and I could see a place like a team like that taking a flyer on Caleb Love and developing him to where he is a contributor. And we've seen, listen, if there's any organization that has maximized their talent, it would be the Spurs. We've seen guys like Gary Neal, for crying out loud, lead the team in scoring in the NBA Finals. Like these are the types
Don't
of
remind
things.
me.
These are the types of things that that players need to recognize when they're trying to, when they're looking at a potential landing spot, whether they get drafted or if they are, to me, fortunate enough to be undrafted, especially if you're talking about the end of the second round, because you don't want to get stuck in purgatory in some organization that doesn't know what they're doing, right? So you'd rather choose your landing spot and then go to the appropriate team as opposed to, getting told where to go.
Yeah, it's a great point. I think that it's not the end of the world. The sky is not falling if Caleb Love is not going to be picked in this draft, because to your point, like, he gets to more college recruiting style pick the place that he thinks he has the best long-term future. I think of, when you were describing that, it reminded me of, say, TJ McConnell. When he was coming out of Arizona, he goes undrafted. And what team does he pick? The 10-72 76ers. The worst team we've ever seen in the NBA. And the reason that he picked that team is because I'm sure he saw a path to playing time, a path to showcasing why he belonged in the NBA. And he did just that as now succeeded to the point of a 10-year NBA career and, kind of peaking in the NBA Finals, which is a pretty special moment. But it all starts with him picking to play for the worst team in the league because he thought that was the best opportunity for him. And, I'm not saying Caleb Love has to go to, the Hornets or something, for example, but I do think that situation is very, very important. Another, just to piggyback off of the teams that you said, Saul, obviously I'm a Heat fan. We talk about it all the time, but it would be just fun just to see a pipeline just continuing, right? Like Caleb Love, Kashad Johnson, Pella Larson. They don't have a pick in the second round, but if he ended up there, just get all of Tommy's boys in Miami and just let's watch them go to work. But
the Warriors.
I'm sorry?
The Warriors.
Yeah.
The Warriors they got a lot of guards, but they developed their guards. And so Caleb Love could easily find himself, playing for the Warriors and thriving under Steve Kerr.
Yeah, and guys like Podziemski are not like unbeatable for playing time. You know what I mean? Like, obviously you got Steph Curry in the building, but I'd argue that in a way that almost makes you more valuable as like a off the bench scoring guard, because you need that scoring when Steph goes onto the bench for a rest or when he's hurt, because Steph misses a good amount of games every year. To your Knicks point, I thought that was interesting because they had campaign on their team this year, and I could kind of see Caleb Love somewhat being like a campaign, having a campaign style NBA career, but like being that spark plug backup kind of combo guard off the bench. I know campaign's a little bit more of a point guard than Caleb Love is, but kind of just being like that outside shooter. He could get hot on any given day and win you a game. Like, I think that is an interesting one-for-one comparison. And then another one that as long as Giannis is there and the Bucks are devoid of talent, I don't mind that option. Like, I think that there's a path to playing time in Milwaukee, and they definitely could use bringing in some scoring guards here and there, especially with Dame, going to need to sit a lot of this, I believe maybe the entire season with when he tore his Achilles. So yeah, gonna be a big important thing for Caleb Love where he ends up. But how do you see his game translating to the next level, Saul? Is he a guy that you think will have an NBA career, or do you think that he's more of probably an overseas guy?
Man, that's so tough. It's so tough because you just don't know with Caleb. If he gets the opportunity to thrive, then yeah, I could see him making it. But I do think it has to be the right situation, somebody that's willing to work and develop him. I think he would make more money overseas. I do, because I think the first couple of years, he's going to be fighting. He's going to be fighting for his life to stay in the NBA. And we've seen guys. Listen, Alonzo Trier got to the NBA as an undrafted rookie for the Knicks, had a great first year under Coach Fizdale, and then got a 2-year, $7 million deal. And before that, the end of that first year was up, Fizdale got fired, and he got siloed to the G League, and we haven't seen him since. And he's been in the G League forever. And I'm like, at some point, my guy, go overseas and make money. You just go over, because you can still develop overseas. And honestly, like, you're going to make more money. You're going to be more revered. You're going to have a better quality of life instead of, traveling on this, this crazy G League circuit, going from, small town USA to small town USA. Like, that's what I would do. And like Corey Williams is a perfect example of that. Like, he didn't get drafted. He opted to go overseas, and he made enough money to give himself a cushion for about 5 to 10 years when he came back. Like, that's what you want. And so I think, again, situationally it's really going to be, paramount where he goes, rather than, him just getting a spot and a chance. Cause I don't think if he showed up on a team like OKC, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, and there's something to be said about just the life experience aspect of it too. Like, what sounds more fun than being paid, 6 figures to go live in a new country and just experience something new? I think that there's a lot of positives that can be brought from that. And Caleb Love is the type of guy, like, similar to like what Derek Williams has carved out for himself overseas, where he could probably play for the biggest clubs across the pond there, and the Bayern Munichs of the world, the Fenerbahces, like the big European basketball powerhouses, and make a lot of money in the process doing so. Because why would he not be one of the more coveted players that goes undrafted from those teams' perspectives? They know his floor is high, and they know that he's played high level games for a long time.
What about Kyle Fogg? Kyle Fogg
Yeah.
has made a living overseas, and also in the TBT, winning that multiple times. Like, hey, my man's had a really good career. He's made a lot of money overseas. He's one of the more coveted players overseas. So, like, Parker Jackson Cartwright, thriving
Yep.
overseas.
Nick Johnson.
Nick Johnson, like, the list goes on and on. Eddie Johnson said that when he left the NBA, because, he got to a spot where he was going to be like that 10th, 11th, 12th guy on the bench. He was like, you know what? I'm going to take a year away from the NBA. I'm going to go overseas. He played overseas for 2 years. He went to Greece. He said the minute he came off the plane, it was like Michael Jordan had arrived. And like, he had his own personal security. He had his own like little 3-story villa off the ocean. Like, anywhere he went, he had security with him. Like, people were hounding it. Like, he was a superstar. And I'm just like, why would what's better? You dribbling up the court, turning your head and looking at some dude eating a corn on the cob in Iowa City, or being out in Greece, living the life, making, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and just, living La Vida Loca, baby. Like,
Yeah, I mean, you're
over there
living in Barcelona or Madrid or something, or you're, on the Fort Wayne Mad Ants playing the Sioux Falls Skyforce on a Tuesday night. And it's, that's a much, much different life. And there's definitely something to be said about like which one, would you go for? But I think that early on, especially, like, these kids have NBA dreams, and Caleb Love is no different, I'm sure, where he's going to do everything in his power to be in the NBA. And we will see, man. It's hopefully, I know that Wildcats fans are rooting for him. We want to see him, get his name called, and it would be pretty cool to get another Arizona Wildcat here. But Carter Bryant becomes the 27th first-round pick in Arizona Wildcats basketball history. Last pick of the lottery. Caleb Love, could he hear his name called tonight? We will find out. But it definitely feels like Tommy Lloyd is cooking in terms of getting a more of a pipeline to the NBA now that he has his guys in the building. Like, obviously, he had the Sean Miller team in his first year, where Christian Coloco and Ben Matherin and Dalen Terry all get drafted, but those were all guys that committed under Sean Miller. Now you're finally seeing.
But I always fight back on that. I know they were Sean's guys, but those guys weren't playing like that.
No,
for that last year under Sean Miller. Tommy Lloyd gets a lot of credit for really pushing them along and developing their skill sets to the point where they were undeniably draft picks.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think when you look at those guys in particular, I'm not sure Koloko gets drafted under Sean Miller if Sean sticks around. Um, I think the development you saw from that guy was, I mean, that's quintessential Tommy Lloyd big man whisperer stuff. You look at Ben Matherin, I think he was so talented that guy's probably an NBA draft pick. Is he the 6th overall pick? Probably not, right? Like Tommy is definitely a guy that puts people in positions to win and really showcased Matherin's offensive talent. And then Dalen Terry, maybe so, but definitely not in year one. Like he left after he was a one and done guy. He left after year one. He got a guaranteed contract, 18th overall pick to the Chicago Bulls. Was it a good pick? Not really. Has it worked out for him so far? Not really. But I'm not certain he's even drafted if Sean Miller is sticking around, and he definitely is not a year one and done type of guy.
Yeah, probably not. But like Dalen Terry is the perfect example of what I'm talking about with like Carter Bryant, right? He's starting to find his footing now, but it's taken a couple years for him to get to that point. And it's just sometimes it could be a really slow developing process. If I always say that you have to have one discernible skill set that is undeniably NBA ready to go on day one. Dalen Terry's skill set was defense, being that kind of that antagonist, right? But it wasn't such a high level of defense to where it was undeniable. It was great. It was better than most, but it still wasn't like undeniable. He needs to be part of this 10-man rotation in the NBA. So he went to the G League. He fought for his life. He came back, and now he's starting to get some minutes with the Bulls. Like when you look at the guys that are coming out of that kind of echelon of Miller to Tommy Lloyd, yeah, I would wholeheartedly agree. Like it's one of those things where your development matters almost more than where you land. And if your development is good and you have good coaching along with you, and you have a coach that appreciates what you bring to the table, gives you the autonomy to be you, but also within the construct of the team. And watching Tommy Lloyd, this is one of the things that, like, I don't get access to practice here in Tucson. So I've never seen a Tommy Lloyd practice in person. But when I went to Team USA camp, I got to see him in person, and I got to see how he runs everything from start to finish. And I'm telling you, folks, I have a different perspective on Tommy Lloyd. It's not that I had a bad perspective at all before. Like I always respected him. I thought what he was doing was great. But I appreciated the approach of it's firm, but it's like, but you got to be you. Like you can't be afraid to play. So if you make mistakes, you just got to be ready for us to get on you about it. But we're not going to harp on these mistakes. We're not going to beat you down over the mistakes. We're not going to stranglehold you to where you feel like you can't do anything without getting the coach's approval. And like that's what I did not like so much about the Sean Miller era is like every single time down the court, Sean Miller's calling the play every single time. Well, at what point does Parker Jackson Cartwright get to call a play in his senior year, right? Like these are the things that development should be teaching you. But Sean Miller's that kind of coach. Like, and I'm not, Sean Miller's a brilliant mind. He's a brilliant coach. I'm not taking anything away from that, but Tommy Lloyd's got a different approach. And I think offensively, it works out better for U of A than it did under Sean Miller because he lets these guys kind of breathe a little bit, find their own way, and then be able to contribute. And in the case of Carter Bryant's almost the anomaly to this because he was a little bit, he had a kind of a tight leash at first, but that tight leash was because he got lost too many times on defense and they were vulnerable too many times when he was on the court. So it had to be kind of a slow feed process. And then about mid-year that changed and because he got better on defense. Once he got better on defense, he got more minutes and he started playing more and he started scoring more and he started contributing more. Like it just makes sense. But that's part of the development process as if you're a coach. So when people look and they're like, well, he didn't even start for his college. I'm like, well, listen, should he have started over ADO? Hell yeah, 1,000,000%. But if you think about the tangibles and how Tommy Lloyd was trying to work the lineups, if you have ADO on the bench, you don't really have a lot of firepower coming off that bench. So to bring Carter Bryant off that bench keeps you a little bit more stabilized from start to finish, as opposed to having too many peaks and too many valleys throughout the course of a game.
Yeah, and Arizona's bench last season was kind of its calling card. Bringing in KJ Lewis, Henry Vasar, and Carter Bryant off the bench as your three bench guys was like, in a way, what separated this last year's Arizona team from other teams is that their bench was just vastly superior to those teams' benches. Henry Vasar might be a first-round pick in the future. Like, you might have had 2 first-round picks coming off the bench there, and KJ Lewis, who was the best defender on the team. So, I mean, really, really, impressive bench unit. Going into next season, though, Saul, how many draft picks do you think around this time we're going to be talking about the Arizona Wildcats having on? I guess we'll just stick it to round 1, just because round 2 gets a little bit more murky. But how many first-round draft picks do you think Tommy Lloyd and Arizona have a year from right now?
Oh boy. Oh, that's a tough one. That could go so many different ways. I'll start with the most questionable, and I would say Krivas. You don't know what you're going to get from him yet.
Yeah.
And if he comes out this year and he is undeniably one of the best big men in the country, he will get scooped up. Now, the thing with Krivas is he's got to show some type of athleticism and a little bit more quickness on the perimeter. Otherwise, he might not find himself in that first round. But if he can show that, and he shows that his game is developed to the point where if that ball goes down low and you don't double, you're screwed. There's no doubt he's going to get a bucket every single time.
Yeah, he'll
be a first rounder. Koa Pete and Braden Burries appear to me to be the locks to be first round picks next year. I think Koa Pete he's such a physical specimen. When you see him in person, you just know that like this kid's he's got an NBA body right now. Braden Burries, on the other hand, not necessarily a physical specimen, but such an elite playmaker and scorer, right? And so those 2 guys, I think for sure. And then you look at guys like Dwayne Aristote. What kind of athleticism is he going to be a display in that first year? What are we going to see from him in this first year? So you could have 4. I think the minimum would be 2.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think that 2 are locks for sure. It was interesting, it made me feel like I was a ball knower when you went out to Colorado Springs and watched Koa Pete, because the things that me and that Kevin have been saying about Koa Pete on this show for months without having gotten a close-up look at him, it seems like it rang all exactly true. Like, why did this guy continuously slip spot by spot in his final high school rankings when you're watching him out there and he's physically different than most of these kids? Like, obviously you have AJ DeBansta, but that guy has been crowned, if you will, and for good reason, as like an already NBA prospect type of player, like a guy who could play in the NBA tomorrow, right? But you have Koa Pete, who is, he's just a man. Like, he is a grown man, and he dunks on people, and he's massive, and it's just like that's the type of player that is going to step in and be automatic in his freshman season. And then you look at Braden Burries, like, couldn't have found a better player to fit the Caleb Love role, I think, and to take that baton from Caleb Love as the volume scorer on this team. And I think that those 2 guys are locks for sure. But yeah, I mean, Aristote is for sure a wild card. How good is he in year 1? Is he going to need that second year, that second development year, or is he going to do what Dalen Terry and Carter Bryant did, and that's be a toolsy wing that Tommy Lloyd just gets in the building, and every time you see him out on the court, he's just showing flashes of greatness, right? And it's like, okay, that guy is an NBA player, and NBA teams will want to work with that and develop that. So, I think that there are some more peripheral guys that you could look at and say they have a shot for sure. But I think that there's the 2 freshmen, one and dones are seemingly locks to probably be first-round picks going into next year. Saul, we're going to get into Oscar Rios and whether or not you should be feeling good about Arizona football's chances to land the 4-star quarterback over UCLA right after the break here on the AZ Wildcats podcast. But first, it is time to talk about, I should say, our friends at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Gila River is the absolute best place to catch a game at the sportsbook, to go gamble, hit the slots, hit all the live table games. They got all of that. They got 4 locations. My favorite is the Wild Horse Pass location, where we do all of our events. They got low scale dining options to upscale. They got the pool, the cabanas, the concert venue that my parents, who are big time concert goers, say is a great place to go see a show, whether that's a comedy show or a musical event. But Gila River has it all. It is just like having a Vegas casino here in your own backyard, except it's even better because you don't got to travel. If you're thinking about taking a staycation, do it at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Leave the kids at home, maybe. Go to Gila River, hang out, have a great time, indulge in all the great activities they have going on over there. And you do you at Gila River Resorts and Casinos. Visit playatgila.com for more details. Another big sponsor of ours that is doing something really fun today, actually, that you're going to want to get in on if you aren't doing so already. Circle K has their one of their gas days today, one of their fuel days, 40 cents off per gallon all day today. So whether you are at halfway filled up, you need a full tank, you barely got anything, you just need to top it off, really. Circle K, make sure you guys go over there and do that today. Sign up for the Inner Circle. It is so quick to sign up. It takes 2 minutes on your phone. You download the app, you plug in an email, choose a password, and you're done. It is really that simple. And today, like I said, you're going to save 25 cents off per gallon on your first 5 fill-ups as is if you haven't signed up already. But you're also going to get an extra 40 cents off per gallon right now on a fuel day on June 26th. So make sure you guys are taking advantage of that deal, taking advantage of all their great drink deals at America's Thirst Stop, taking advantage of all these meal deals. The savings are nonstop when you're using the Inner Circle. So join the Inner Circle for free by downloading the Circle K app today. Terms and conditions apply at participating locations. Visit CircleK.com for details. Let's get Saul Bookman back in here. Saul, Arizona football obviously has its quarterback in Noah Fifita, and for the foreseeable future, because he still has that extra year of eligibility after this year as well. Hopefully he sticks around, but there is going to be a player that is going to be needed to get that baton handed to them, right? Is Oscar Rios that guy? Oscar Rios, 4-star quarterback, was competing at the Elite 11 and was apparently kind of showing out there. He's down to 2 schools, and he's deciding tomorrow. It is 50-50 between UCLA and Arizona. And he said as much last week. He mentioned that it was 50-50. I have an excerpt here from Tracy Pearson, I believe, of UCLA's 247 site. It says UCLA was clearly the leader for Rios, but then when freshman Madden Iamaleava, redshirt sophomore Pierce Clarkson, coming in from the transfer portal, on top of course, Nico Iamaleava from Tennessee, that probably set back UCLA's chances with Rios. We've heard the UCLA official visit last weekend really went a long way to assuaging Rios's concerns, and the Bruins are definitely right in it again. Saul, did I say assuaging right?
I think so.
Gonna just put this out there. Not a word guy, but his commitment is tomorrow. I believe it is midday. I'm trying to find that out right now. But Saul, how are we feeling about landing the 4-star California quarterback?
I mean, listen, if recruiting visits are funny, man. Of course, they're going to do everything they can to sell you on their program and say that, oh, you don't have to worry about this, and this. Like, you don't have to worry about it. That's just what they do. Like, that's what everybody does. So, for me, it's like, okay, when you look at the roster, like, is there anybody that you should be worried about if you sign with a team, and will you have the opportunity to at least, compete and earn a starting position? And for Oscar, you look at the quarterback situation and what just happened, then, I mean, you got to look at Arizona and you say, okay, well, what do they have right now? You have Sawyer Anderson, freshman, Braden Locke, redshirt junior, Luke Haugo, freshman, Mason Bray, redshirt freshman. So, like, are any of those guys you concerned about or not? But the way you're balling right now, maybe not. And you might be able to get that starting job in year one, unless Noah Fifita stays another year. And even if he does stay another year, that's probably better for you anyway, because most freshman quarterbacks don't come in ready to go on day one. They just don't. So that year of learning and really building those skill sets, building your maturity, building your strength and your conditioning, I think can get you ready for that. So let's hope that he chooses the Wildcats, because the end of the Noah Fifita era could be upon us after this season, and then what? But I have a feeling Noah's going to stick around for another year, though.
Me too,
because I don't project him to be an NFL quarterback right now. I still think he has some things that he needs to prove in terms of his skill sets and his the way he goes about his his business. And I think last year was kind of a setback for him to a degree because of the cluster that was Arizona football on a variety of different levels, not just his, but also, coaching and scheme and all that stuff. And, he started to develop some bad habits, and he's got to come out this year and prove that he doesn't have those bad habits. And if he does that, then I think he's on his way to at least catching the attention of NFL personnel. But when you're that small, when you're that short, unless you got dynamic athleticism, most times you're going to get ignored by the NFL. So what are you showing them that they haven't seen? And that's where Noah's got to really excel. So yeah, let's hope that Oscar Rios decides that he wants to become a Wildcat. But as with always, Damon, for me, I think that I've always said this. I said this for the last decade. It feels like Arizona fans sometimes approach Arizona football commitments the same way they approach Arizona basketball commitments, and they're not the same. They're just not the same because freshmen don't come in, start for 1 year, and go pro. Like that just doesn't happen in college football because, first of all, it can't happen. You have to play at least 3 years. So I when these kids commit, I'm like, I don't know. I mean, we could all sit there and be like, oh, he is a 5-star prospect. He's going to be a lights out. And then they fizzle.
Braden Dorman. He was 4-star quarterback, very highly recruited, and ends up at Arizona. And I don't even know where he went. I think he went to like NAU level football. Like he didn't even drop down to a mid-major level. He dropped down to FCS level.
Yeah, not good. But you look at oh my gosh, why do I keep blanking on the Psycho? They just transferred. Transferred from Oregon. Justin Flo, yeah, highly rated prospect.
Yeah,
comes in, fizzle, like nothing. He went to Oregon. Oregon was like, maybe the juice wasn't worth the squeeze on this kid. He comes to Arizona. As much as we all loved his personality and his craziness, he didn't really contribute much on the field.
Yeah, not a great football player.
Yeah, so like and those guys are like a dime a dozen. Like that happens all the time because in high school they look like studs because they're playing, like little St. Mary's, from down the street with, their center that weighs 185 pounds. Like, okay, cool. Now you got to do it against the big boys, and it just is a different game. So, I don't really buy in too much to those prospects, except for like the top 25 elite players, right? Like the quarterbacks usually are the ones that are like, just make no mistake about it. Like you got Archie Manning. Yeah, he's going to be worth it. You know what I'm saying? Like Julio Jones, when he got to Alabama, yeah, he was the best player in that class. Like, of course he was going to be that. But outside of that, I don't really invest in I don't invest my emotions into football recruits.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, I think, in regards to your Fafita conversation, and I'll kind of, bring it back around. I think Fafita will be here next year because his younger brother Dash Fafita is in the upcoming class, and I'm sure that that's important to that family, is to have those guys playing on the same team together. And I just think that that family in general just loves this university and wants to try to do everything in their power to leave it in a good spot. But
the only way he would leave, I would say this: the only way he would leave is if there's a team out there that just had everything except a quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And he was able to just be a plug and play kind of person to try to win a national title for a team, right? That's the only way I can see him leaving. Yeah, and they handed the keys.
It can't just be like a competition. Like he's got to probably be told like you're the starter if you come here.
Oh yeah, it's got to be undeniable.
Yeah, and but what I was gonna say though is regarding Oscar Rios is he is a very, very thinly framed player. He is extremely skinny right now, almost Jaden Daniels-esque in a way, where you worry about the frame a little bit. That year off that you were talking about, Saul, with Noah Fafita playing his final season at Arizona, could be extremely beneficial for a guy like Oscar Rios to put on 25 pounds of muscle. He'll still be skinny, but he'll at least just bulk up a little bit more to sustain those hits at this level. But he's a really, really good player. His commitment is actually set for 9 p.m. tomorrow night. Now I'm looking at, so really late at night.
Brother, Oscar, yeah, come on, you need better PR than that.
Seems odd. I might do some research into that after the show to see if that is holding true there. But
These kids will be pre-gaming, man. What are you
yeah,
doing, man?
on a Friday at 9 p.m. I mean, that's how you just like bury it. That's what the NFL does whenever they want some news buried. They're
Yeah.
just like, oh yeah, by the way, dude was in a drunk driving accident yesterday. Have fun with it. All right, we'll see you on Monday. Like, have a good weekend. But
Or they wait for some like disaster in the country that's happening,
yes,
like, some volcano erupt and, everybody's got to evacuate and like, oh, while you're distracted, zip, there it is.
yeah. Dolphins coach, doing cocaine in his office. Have a good weekend, everybody. Yeah, it's similar stuff to that. But
And
yeah,
they always end the memo with that. Have a good weekend, everybody.
yeah. We'll see you on Monday. Everybody recharge for Monday. But Oscar Rios is,
I think
what
that's
I
what
will
that coach
say
is trying to do.
regarding his UCLA interest. Arizona's last quarterback that they tried to get, they did get Luke Halgo, who you mentioned, when you were listing the quarterbacks, but they tried to get Robert McDaniel as well, who was in the Elite 11, was supposed to be the big quarterback recruit for Brandon and co. He was committed to Arizona, and then UCLA offers at the last moment. And what does Robert McDaniel do? He flips his commitment on signing day to UCLA. And where's he at right now? This is less than like 6 months ago, saw that this happened on signing day. He is now at San Jose State already because UCLA recruited over him by bringing in Madden Iamaleava, by bringing in Pierce Clarkson, who is Steve Clarkson's son, who, if you don't know, is, kind of the quarterback coach in the industry, works out with every offseason with all the top guys. He's a very well-connected coach. I'm sure he's not putting his son in a spot that, he will never play. And then you have Nico Iamaleava as well. So Robert McDaniel already got out of town, already kind of, I would argue, screwed up in not coming to Arizona. Oscar Rios, I will caution you, brother. I think we're looking at something similar happening with UCLA if you go there. UCLA is a school that is always going to recruit over you at quarterback. And the cream rises to the top when it comes to that conversation. But if you come to Arizona, man, you're going to be given the keys to this program and be molded into that role right after Noah Fafita, because there's a very distinct ending period of, when that spot is going to be open, when there's going to be opportunity on the field. And I just think it makes way too much sense for him to quarterbacks, when big time quarterbacks are looking to go to their next school, they are mostly looking for opportunity. And I think opportunity is very prevalent at Arizona. And, I'm sure Seth Dagey and co have done a great job in terms of, just recruiting him so late on in the process and making this a battle. But with Arizona being his latest commitment, or latest visit, I should say, I feel pretty good about this one with the opportunity, with UCLA over recruiting at quarterback. I just think it all matches up for Arizona to land him. But also it's Arizona football, so we could very much be disappointed.
If you're a recruit and you really take the time, like especially in Rios's case, you just gave a brilliant example of a quarterback who committed to Arizona and then saw the brighter colors of Los Angeles and UCLA and that campus, and it's a gorgeous campus, don't get me wrong, and opted to go there. The difference between UCLA and Arizona is UCLA has vastly more capital and resources to be able to throw at kids. So that goes two ways. That goes to entice you to come there, but also, they're always looking for the grass being greener somewhere. And they have the resources to be able to make that happen. If you go to Arizona, listen, resources not as plentiful as UCLA has, and you will be that guy most likely if you can prove it. So there won't be any fluctuation here. If you prove that you're the dude, you're going to get your chance. And if you come through, you got it on lock for a while. If you don't, then that's when they start looking for other people, just like any program would. So that's what I've always been impressed about, like with like a program like K-State, right? K-State is not, some national power, but they are one of the more legitimate football programs in the last 30, 40 years, right? Constantly winning games. Every now and then they'll flash and get close to a college football playoff, or, they even almost won a national championship way back with Michael Bishop. But like they are committed to their players, and they do have resources, but those resources are built in a way to where they're not always going to look for the grass being greener, because they want program guys. They want guys that they can develop and stay in the program and stay here for multiple years, because by the time you get to your junior year, you will be the star quarterback. That's the goal here. You have 2 years to work yourself up to be that elite quarterback, and then you run the program yourself. That's what I think Arizona is going to have to try to do. The UCLAs will never do that. They'll never try to be that established program, because they're always going to be looking for the flash in the pan prospect. And that's the difference between where Arizona is and should be going versus where UCLA will always be.
Absolutely. We're going to wrap up this discussion in overtime real quick on the AZ Wildcats podcast. But yeah, I 100% agree with that. I mean, this is you can be the guy. You can have that opportunity at a high level school put right in front of you. And one thing that Kevin and I talked about, Saul, is, right now this current recruiting class for Brent Brennan and staff is, I don't want to call it underwhelming, because I think that's unfair. They have a decent amount of commitments. It's 13th out of 16 in the Big 12 overall. But they've gotten 9 commitments in the month of June alone. If they can cap that off with an Oscar Rios, Kevin and I have talked about how much a quarterback can do to be a catalyst for the remainder of the class, because players just gravitate to playing with good quarterbacks. That's simply the truth. And if Oscar Rios, is as good as advertised and has relationships in Southern California where he's from, like, you could see a world in which Arizona starts bringing in, I don't want to call it an influx, but more and more, recruits that are, probably at the top of this class due to wanting to play with a guy that they feel they have confidence in, being a good quarterback at the next level. So that's why I think that Oscar Rios is more important than just bringing in a quarterback. I think it's bringing in an entire class of your best recruits, essentially, because they feel galvanized by playing with a quarterback they believe in.
I'd agree with that. I would agree with that wholeheartedly, for sure.
Yeah, I think that it's an important commitment there. We're going to be covering it tomorrow, of course, on a Friday. Saul, we appreciate you stopping in and hanging out with us. You're going to be back on with us early next week as well. So make sure you guys follow Saul Bookman at Saul_Bookman. Real quick before we get out of here, though, I did want to say now is the perfect time to become a diehard. We have a sale going on right now, $36 with the NBA draft going on, with the NHL draft on the horizon. If you are a big NBA draft or NHL draft savant, now is the perfect time to get in on it. Also, if you just want great value, right? Because our t-shirts are $34.99. This sale is $36. You get a free t-shirt when you get a part of this sale. That almost pays for it in and of itself. Then for $1 extra, you get the great work of Gerald Bourguet, the great work of Kevin Thomas, the great work of all of our writers here at PHNX Sports. And of course, you get access to our Discord, discounts on all of our events. The savings speak for themselves. Sign up now, get that free t-shirt, which, basically is the value, as I already said, and then reap the benefits of all the rest of that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's a fantastic deal. I do want to say this. This is one thing I want to try and do this year. Okay, not for football, because that football season is just kind of crazy, and my schedule is like jam packed with that. But for basketball season, I will say I will be in Vegas, I will be in LA, I will be at BYU, I will be at CU for sure. I will be in those 4 locations without a doubt. So if you're one of the homies, you want to drive up the road to either Vegas or LA, or hell, even if you want to drive all the way up to BYU, which I've done, and it is a miserable drive. But the scenery is beautiful once you get to Provo. I'll tell you that. And if you are in Colorado and you want to go hang out, hit me up. Like I'd be more than happy to go grab a beer. When I went out to Kansas, that was the beautiful thing about Kansas. I got on my flight and U of A fans were passing me by, and they were like, hey, bear down, whatever. And then one of them on the way off the plane was just like, hey, we're going to be at this bar in Lawrence. If you want to come out, we'd love to hang. Cool. Went out. We were drinking all night. It was fun getting to know about 8 to 10 of these dudes that follow the program, and they love what we do. And it was just really, like, you get to really know some of these fans that maybe you don't get a chance to meet every day. Fans of the program, not fans of us. And so that's what it's all about, right? A little community, a little camaraderie. We all love the Wildcats. So if you want to bear down with me, hit me up. I'll be more than happy to do that. We can't drink in Provo because I don't even think liquor's allowed in Provo. So, maybe we'll go maybe we'll go get a malt shake or something. I don't know what they do out there in Provo, but, we'll just soak up the sun and have a good time.
Provo is a BYOB type of place. It feels like maybe you stock up the suitcase a little bit with some cans on the way out there. There's some workarounds for sure, but absolutely, as Saul says, like we're always dying to get to meet more of these people, more of the Arizona Wildcats faithful all the time.
Maybe we'll get Damon and Kevin to come out. At least for one of these. At least LA or Vegas. One of these two, you got to come out.
LA is the UCLA game neutral site this year?
Yeah, it's at the new Clippers arena.
After last year, it means everything.
It does.
After last year's choke, I mean, that game literally is my Super Bowl. But we will have to make it out to something. And of course, Saul will be out there. Hit him up. Have a beer with them. It's always a good time. But yeah, we appreciate you, Saul, for stopping in with us. You can follow Saul at Saul_Bookman. You can follow me at Damon Dog, DAWG. You can follow us at PHNX_Wildcats. And we'll be back at 2 p.m. on a Friday with Erica Day, guest co-hosting. Saul will be back early next week. But, we'll see you tomorrow. Until then, peace out, bear down, and go Cats.
We all silly like the mayor.